Hey guys, in this video I'm going to take these scrap boards that I was given and turn this into 3 beautiful cutting boards. I'm Steve and this is Wilmer Woodworks. So that's usually how it goes. Somebody sees something online and then they say, hey, let me give you some wood and make something for me. So that's what happened here. Here I'm just checking out the wood that I was given. It's remnants of a butcher block countertop that somebody had purchased from, I think, Home Depot or Lowe's. They had extras and they wanted a couple of cutting boards made out of it. So after checking all of the imperfections and things like that, I started cutting everything down to size. The boards were a little bit too long to get on my little table saw here, so I had to flip my miter gauge the opposite way around just to make sure I could get a nice clean cut on that. So I am going to be able to make 3 boards out of this. The last board that had the angle cut really was just too small for a board, so that was not going to happen. And I do like to keep my boards about 12.5 inches wide just because that's the width of my planer. So if I do have to send it through the planer, it's always nice to just have it where it will fit. The length of the boards, I believe the large one is about 22, 23 inches and the smaller ones are maybe 15, 14 inches, something around there. I did offer the laser engraving. As you can see from my last video, I made this nice little jig so I could get the names on there. It came out really nice. Nice added touch. And once you sand that down, that name really does pop. This one actually I made a little small, so I had to cut that off and then re-laser engrave it later. Now, one of the smaller boards did have a lot of imperfections on the bottom, so I had to put a few inlays in there just to make sure the board didn't split. First time I ever did inlays. I didn't record much of the video, I just made these bow ties on my laser engraver as a template. They came out perfect with that router bit that I picked up on Amazon for about $16. And the smaller one actually I had to cut by hand, which didn't turn out to be that difficult to do. I was really nervous about doing it, but I think they came out pretty good. This is just some leftover walnut that I had from a previous project. I know this is not the appropriate saw. I should probably have used something a little bit more gentle, but it's what I had and it worked. And once I sanded everything down, it actually turned out to look really decent for, I mean, it's just the bottom of the board, but it gives a nice little added touch. So after that was done, I had to sand pretty much everything down, try to get rid of most of those saw marks, just clean everything up a bit. I didn't go too crazy because if you've ever done any woodworking, you know that sanding is sanding and sanding is pretty much all you do. I had a few gaps on the bottom of the other small board. I just added a little bit of the glue and then sanded to make a little plug just so those gaps weren't too prevalent. So it looks like I'm going to be making a lot more boards, and since usually everybody wants a juice groove, I decided to make a jig for cutting my juice grooves. I was using carpet tape and just some standard guides, but I've seen a couple of people online make these jigs for the juice grooves, and I figured it was perfect timing to try to make my own. I picked up some select pine from Lowe's along with some hardware, and there are a lot of videos out there. This is not an instructional video. I can say that with the hardware and everything that I purchased to make this, I didn't have any of this wood on hand. It cost me probably about $40 or $50 in materials to make, but it's going to save me so much time in the future. So I just started with some 1x material. I'm just measuring here. I'm going to put the juice grooves probably about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. And then I purchased some hanger bolts and some knobs from the store. And here, like I said, I'm just cutting everything down to the size and the width to make sure that every time I clamp this onto one of my cutting boards, it's exactly where I want it to be. So if you have something that you're going to be repetitively doing, I highly recommend trying to make some sort of jig to make your life a lot easier. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just putting some spacers, and this will space out perfectly for my trim router, so everything will align once I glue and screw everything together. And these are the hanger bolts with the knobs. I looked into getting knobs and threaded inserts, which actually would have cost a lot more, so I'm glad I did go with the hanger bolts. And here I'm just using my router table to put the groove in where the hanger bolt will slide to make this jig adjustable. Yeah, I did have to do it in 2 passes because it was a lot of material to remove, so I just marked my stop and start, or my start and stop on my router, so everything's lined up. And I will be gluing and screwing this together. Usually I just like to use the screws, but since this is going to be a permanent jig, I'm going to rely on that glue to hold everything tight and straight. And it is very helpful having so many of those Craftsman drivers and drills. And here I'm just drilling for that hanger bolt. See how it just slides. Like I said, this was a perfect one-day project just to put together, so I could easily put these juice grooves in all of my future cutting boards, as it will slide and accommodate any size board usually that I'm going to be building. So with that all made up, it was time to test it out, so I popped out my trim router and started putting in that juice groove. I did make multiple passes. Even with the multiple passes though, I still ended up having a little bit of burning in the corners from the bit, so I don't know if it's just because I need a newer bit or I wasn't going fast enough or slow enough, or maybe my speed was off, I'm not sure. So I'll have to work on that moving forward. And now with that finished, it is time to put the handles in. I really like putting this style of handle in. I did a drop handle that I used my router table on a while ago, which was okay. But with this template and a guide bushing with the router, it seems to work out well. Everybody's usually happy with this, and it's very easy to put in. So if you guys like the videos that I've been putting out, appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. I am fortunate enough to be at about 450 subscribers. If I get to 1,000, then possibly I can monetize the station. And it always does encourage me to make a few more videos for you. So with everything routed out, I got my oscillating tool with the sanding pad, and that fits in there perfectly. It does get a little warm, and that pad actually started to wear down, so I'll probably have to purchase another one. And I always like to round over my corners on my cutting boards. I don't like the corners to be too sharp, so I just ease those off a little bit. And then back to sanding, and sanding, and sanding, and sanding. It's a large part of this finishing process. I did install some feet on these boards. I don't think I included any video on that. It was just 1 inch in from each side. Simply drilled and screwed those stainless steel rubber feet on. And once everything was done being sanded and prepped, it's just time to add mineral oil. I just put as much oil on these boards as they can take. Just wiping them on by hand. I let them sit for a little while, and then I do wipe them off. And then I did finish it with the mineral oil and beeswax mix. I think in the future I'm going to try to buy a larger gallon of this to save money instead of getting these smaller bottles, and then possibly making some board oil as well. Well, hope you guys liked the video. I will have another video up shortly, and thanks for watching.